Welcome to One Shot Presents. This is an Oz special. That's right, it's just devoted to the wonderful Wizard of Oz. I'm Brick. You know what we do here. We review comics and action figures. This week, we are reviewing the wonderful Wizard of Oz. It was written by L. Frank Baum many moons ago, and this is an adaptation by Eric Shanower and Scotty Young. It's a great book, especially for kids. It's a wonderful book. I'm not much into literature. I don't break down and read a book. If it has more than 200 pages, I usually run the other way. But with this comic book, it totally introduced me into the Oz world, and I must admit, I'm hungry for more. I'm probably going to read the rest of Baum's books. For kids, it's an enjoyable treat. The art is great. Most of you people will probably think of the characters like the Scarecrow, the Lion, the Tin Man, and Dorothy from the movie, The Wizard of Oz, you know, the MGM classic with Judy Garland. But this one is a great twist on it. Scotty Young's art completely changes that look, and it makes it inviting and fresh for a classic tale. Anyway, I really love this book, especially if you had kids. You really should treat yourself to this book. Out of 5, I'm gonna have to give it a 5.
Troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops.
During Comic-Con, we had the pleasure of meeting Eisner winners Eric Shanower and Scotty Young, so check it out.
We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. We hear he is a wizard of whiz, if ever a wizard.
All right, always a treat. We're here with Eric Shanower, Eisner winner last night. How does it feel?
It feels great. It was a total shock, actually. We were nominated for Best Publication for Kids and Best Limited Series. Scotty Young, the artist, and I thought that we had a pretty good shot at Best Publication for Kids. So that was actually the first award given out. And after we got back to the table, after we won, we just said, okay, we can sort of relax for the rest of the night. Because, you know, Best Limited Series, we're like this, you know, sort of bastard stepchild of Marvel Comics. No one thinks of the Wizard of Oz when you think of Marvel Comics. But so we were just, you know, not expecting anything. But then the Best Limited Series was the second from the last award given out last night. And I was just clapping for all the other nominees, and then halfway through them announcing that category, I realized, oh, we're up for this, aren't we? I'm like, oh, I have to remember not to clap for mine because that's not very good manners. And like, I'm just clapping, and then ours comes up and I'm still clapping. I'm like, oh, I have to stop clapping. And then they say that we won, and I was just totally blown away. I mean, it's like, this is impossible. And Scotty was just as blown away as I was. We had no expectations of winning that. Of course, there's always a little bit of hope, but it didn't seem very realistic whatsoever. But our expectations were totally turned upside down, obviously. So it seemed very unreal and very surprising, and I'm very grateful. And the experience of working on the project of the Oz books for Marvel is great. I'm very happy. It's a fun thing to do. Scotty's artwork is absolutely beautiful. It's what's probably driving the sales of the series, which has turned out to be really popular. We just finished the Marvelous Land of Oz, the second series, and Ozma of Oz issue number 1 will be out in November.
So now we talked to Scotty about this, and we told him we know that you're pretty diehard with the Wizard of Oz, and he said that he kind of just takes what you give him. He doesn't look into the original. But how much does the original really influence you? Do you try to stay as close as you can to that, or do you say, it'll be kind of fun to tweak here, it'll be kind of fun to tweak there, or how do you handle that?
Well, the original idea behind the Wonderful Wizard of Oz from Marvel was part of the Marvel Illustrated line, which they were adapting all the classic literature, all the adventure story like Treasure Island, Man in the Iron Mask, stuff like that. They wanted to do the Wizard of Oz. So naturally, since we were adapting, the point was to adapt the classic literature, so I'm like, stay completely close to the book. Very, very faithful adaptation. Marvel was very accommodating. They asked me how many issues I wanted to tell it in, and they gave me what I asked for. It's 8 issues, and the editors have all been very nice. Very little feedback. I mean, I send in the scripts, and I usually don't. They just say great. Don't hear once in a while a little bit of constructive criticism, which I welcome from an editor. That's their job. What was your question again?
Just how much is the
Is the original material influence?
Yeah, like I guess how much freedom do you feel comfortable taking with
I basically take no freedom because I've loved the Oz books since I was a kid. I'm trying to present these adaptations of the Oz books as if you are experiencing the story that Baum wrote, but of course it's an adaptation, it's comics, it's a different medium. I have to make sure that it is a good comics experience, not just a good reading experience. Of course, I'm not totally responsible. We have Scotty on the art and Jean-Francois on the colors and Jeff Eckelberry on the lettering. So everybody, of course, adds a part to the comic. What I try to do is distill the essence of the book into a solid base for Scotty to build on so that whatever I'm giving him, he doesn't really need to think too hard about the basic concepts. It's all there laid out for him. All he has to do is design really great characters and work it out as far as the artwork goes. I mean, that's all his job should be anyway, because he's the artist. It's my job to think out all the other part anyway.
Well, very cool. Well, congratulations again, and thank you. It's always a pleasure to see you. We're here with Eisner Award winner Scotty Young. Scotty, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, thanks you, man.
Tell us a little bit about your work with The Wonderful Wizard of Oz.
It's a blast. I mean, it's a good chance to do all ages books, and just do a nice fantasy-based world without a lot of restrictions. So it's just been fantastic.
Do you ever feel like, because it is such a iconic property, I guess, not just from the books, but also from obviously the film, is that ever kind of like a little restricting, or do you just kind of say, well, who cares? I'll draw it however I want?
Well, the good thing with what we're doing is we're going straight from the novels. The movie doesn't exist to us. The movie is a MGM property, whereas the original Frank L. Baum novels are much, much deeper than the movie got. So to me, they're really just separate beasts. So I don't ever feel restricted. We go from the material, and then I just take what that material inspires me to do and just do that. So we're pretty free to do whatever we want.
Very cool. Now tell us, you got this Junk 1. Tell us a little bit about
that. It's just my art book. When I get done with work or in the morning, I do some warm-ups, or if I'm just watching TV at night, I'll pull a sketchbook out. It's my chance to play around with some shapes, do some experimenting, and hopefully be able to translate some of that into my daily work. So every year I try to compile some of that into a book and let people get a little bit of a glimpse behind of what I do outside of work.
Now going back to the Wizard of Oz, we know Eric is obviously pretty heavily into the whole Wizard of Oz. Seems like he knows it frontwards and backwards and sideways. Are you the same way, or have you developed a passion after working on it, or where do you stand, I guess?
Mine is a little bit. I went back and reread the first novel. I'd read them when I was a kid. Of the first few, I didn't read as many, all of them. I went back and reread the first one when we did The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. But since then, I've kind of went the opposite way. I've just detached myself from the material, and I just take the scripts that Eric gives me, and I basically treat those like that's the original. In some ways, that lets me be as fresh as possible and make sure that, because I know Eric's so faithful to the material, that I let him do the most faithful part, then I get inspired from what he gives me, and I think that's what helps make us be not just your normal adaptation. It gives a little bit of a fresh spin on it.
Well, thanks so much.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Well, that's our show for this week. Thanks for joining. Tune in next week when we review more comics and action figures. We want to thank everybody that's involved in the one-shot world, especially Night Flight Comics, greatest sponsors in the world. Anyway, we'll see you guys next week.